The Denver Broncos gutted out an upset victory over the San Francisco 49ers. Let's take a look at some winners and losers from the game. Hello everyone and welcome to Denver Broncos Syndicate, part of the Sports Syndicate family of channels where we're dedicated to bringing you content about our favorite sports teams. I am your host, Gage Madrid. Before we jump into some winners and losers from last night's game, I just wanted to say thank you to Derek over at Gridiron Blitz as well as Detroit Lions Syndicate for holding down the fort and live streaming last night's game. And thank you so much to anyone who caught last night's live stream. Next week is a road game for the Broncos, so I actually plan on being home to stream that game. Last night was another gritty victory for the Denver Broncos as they defeated the San Francisco 49ers 11-10 on Sunday Night Football. Last night marked the Broncos' first win on Sunday Night Football since 2015, so it was really good to be able to pick up that win on a national spotlight. Although the game was mostly highlighted by defense and punting, in the fourth quarter the Broncos offense was able to do what they had to do to get the victory. After the game was 7-3 for most of the first three quarters, the 49ers made a big mistake. Jimmy Garoppolo channeled his inner Dan Orlovsky and stepped out of the back of the end zone for a safety, which made the score 7-5. What's even crazier about that play is that had Jimmy not stepped out of the back of the end zone, the ball would have been intercepted and returned for a touchdown by Bradley Chubb. It was an absolutely terrible throw from Jimmy Garoppolo after already making a blunder by stepping out of the back of the end zone. And on top of that, on that play, the 49ers lost their superstar left tackle Trent Williams, who's one of the best players in football regardless of position. He went down with a high ankle sprain and ultimately had to be helped off the field. It was at that point where the momentum really started to shift in the Broncos' favor. Following the safety, the Broncos' offense still struggled to get it together, although the defense, which was lights out for the entire game, was able to keep the Broncos in it. The 49ers did drive down the field and did kick a field goal to make the score 10-5, but the Broncos' defense held strong and the offense was able to finally drive the ball downfield for a touchdown. The 4-yard touchdown run by Melvin Gordon was the Broncos' first red zone touchdown this season. Although we would have liked to have seen it sooner, it was good to see the Broncos finally able to get that monkey off their back. After a failed 2-point conversion, the score sat at a rare 11-10. I'm not sure if that score has ever taken place in the NFL before. Following the touchdown drive, the Broncos defense was able to preserve the victory with 2 turnovers on the 49ers' final 2 possessions of the game. The first turnover came on a forced throw over the middle by Jimmy Garoppolo intended for Deebo Samuel, which was deflected and landed in the arms of Jonas Griffith. The second was a fumble which was recovered by Kareem Jackson to ice the game. The entire Broncos defense earned a game ball for that one, and rightfully so. It was a lights out performance, and that was a victory that really felt like the 2015 Super Bowl team for me. I mean, the way we won that game, we found a way to get it done despite all the odds being stacked against us. That was a gritty performance, and that's a performance that I don't think the Broncos would have been able to pull off in the Vic Fangio or the Vance Joseph era, quite frankly. That's a game that for the past 5 years, the Broncos would not have been able to hold on and gut out in the fourth quarter. I mean, you think back to games like the Cincinnati game last year and so many other close games for the Broncos where they were right there. Despite all the mistakes, they were still able to be in position to win the game and they just couldn't get it done. Last night, the Broncos got it done, which is really encouraging to see. Moving on to some winners and losers of the game, one of the big winners on defense was a guy who really allowed the unit to gel once he returned, and that is Josey Jewell. Jewell was phenomenal last night. He recorded 9 total tackles, a sack, and 1.5 run stuffs. He was all over the ball in coverage, and he was just phenomenal. His presence on the defense really helped boost the unit's morale and their overall performance. Again, although the entire Broncos defense could be marked down as winners last night, another individual performance that needs to be highlighted is Pat Surtain. He was phenomenal last night. He was tacked on to the 49ers receivers like flypaper in man coverage. It was really a sensational performance from Pat Surtain, and it's starting to become apparent that he's taking that next step forward in his game. On 6 targets, Surtain did not allow a single reception last night. It was a true shutdown performance from him. I'd also be remiss if I didn't talk about Corliss Waitman, the Broncos' first-year punter. After an inconsistent first 2 games, Waitman had a breakout performance last night. On 8 of his 10 punts, he pinned the 49ers inside their own 25-yard line, and on 5 of those punts, he pinned them inside the 15-yard line. That was a phenomenal punting performance last night, and it was a big factor in the Broncos being able to come away with a victory. You know that Pat McAfee was really enjoying watching that game last night because both punters were really phenomenal. Now, we do have to talk about some losers for the game. Russell Wilson for me is a little bit interesting. At first glance, you could throw him in the losers category for his performance in the first 3 quarters, but in the 4th quarter, we saw some glimpses of vintage Russell Wilson. He was able to make some plays with his legs, and he was best when he was able to ad-lib and make some plays out of structure. He then hit Courtland Sutton on a really nice back shoulder fade, which put the Broncos in the red zone, and they were able to seal the deal with the Melvin Gordon touchdown run. Although I personally do not have access to the All-22 tape until tomorrow, some guys on YouTube that I watch who do have access to it have already broken down the Broncos offense last night. Based on what I have seen in those clips, it seems that overall the 49ers were playing a really stout defense last night. They played a lot of cover 2 zone, which really took away the deep ball for Russ. It was a phenomenal game plan by 49ers defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans, and for most of the game, Russ was simply taking what the defense gave him. In the 4th quarter, Russ finally seemed to realize that he was going to have to make something happen against this defense and take some gambles, and he was able to do that, and ultimately that was the difference maker in this game for the Broncos. Another unit for the Broncos that I would say falls into the losers category is the offensive line. Cam Fleming was atrocious at right tackle last night, and Graham Glasgow, his counterpart at right guard, was not much better. The left side of the line was not much better. Garrett Bowles was getting bullied by Nick Bosa last night and even drew a holding call because of it, and Dalton Reisner was a big problem last night. He was just a mess. The Broncos' best offensive lineman last night was Lloyd Cushenberry, and that still wasn't saying much. After what we thought was going to be an improved offensive line entering this year, what we've seen in the first 3 weeks really does not bode a whole lot of confidence. The good news is the Broncos should be getting Quinn Miners back next week. He was active for the game last night, but he was only available for emergency situations. Coach Hackett said that the team wasn't quite ready to throw him out there just yet. He should be full go next week, however, and God knows what's happening with Billy Turner. Maybe he'll go next week, maybe not. Hopefully we don't have to throw Cam Fleming out there against Max Crosby, but who knows at this point. Billy Turner it is what it is, that situation. You're definitely never going to apologize for a win in the NFL. The Broncos are 2-1, and they are tied with the Kansas City Chiefs for the top spot in the AFC West. Although there is a lot of things to clean up, even when we're playing bad football, the Broncos are still able to find a way to win. If we can clean up a lot of the issues that we've been plagued by on offense, God knows what this team can do moving forward. Next week is going to be fun, Broncos country. It's Raider week, and there is even more spice added to an already intense rivalry with Josh McDaniels, the Broncos' former hated head coach, now their head coach in Las Vegas. The Raiders are off to an ugly start to their 2022 season with an 0-3 beginning to the campaign. Coaching seems to be a massive issue with them. The offensive play calling has been all too predictable. Derek Carr has regressed big time, and that is not what we expected to see after adding Davante Adams to the mix. Adams also seems to be struggling to find his niche in that offense, so Definitely not the way the Raiders envisioned their start. This is going to be a fun opportunity for the Broncos offense to finally pick up that signature performance that they've been seeking. I'm curious, Broncos country, what are your overall thoughts on the team after last night's game? Drop those comments down below. I would love to hear from you. Be sure to leave a like on this video as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. We're trying to get to 850 subscribers, so let's see how fast we can get there. And for now, this has been another episode of Denver Broncos Syndicate. I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out and let's ride.